Wilder Show podcast. Hello, I'm Scott. That's Lauren. Hello, Lauren.
Hello there. How are you?
Pretty good. All this rain and such.
I know, it's kind of nice, isn't it?
It is nice.
And it's cool.
It's nice and cool. Mm-hmm. We'll tell some of that in a sec. We're on Instagram somewhere, and you can find us if you look for us.
You might want to be a little bit more specific than that.
That's Wilder Show Pod.
It is. Yep.
Wilder Show Pod. Mm-hmm. And it is a small but curiously strong group of people who join us here for the Wilder Show podcast. You can email us to podcast@wildershow.com. The Wilder Show podcast drops on Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 a.m. Central or before on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. So please like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. The rain, real quick, we'll get to tariffs in a second. The rain, as I've said before, I like the rain now. I remember a June to early part of July several years ago where we had, I don't think it ever got warmer than 85 degrees.
I remember.
You remember this?
I do.
All homeowners remember this because didn't really have to use the air conditioning much and didn't have to water almost at all for like maybe 50 days. It was great.
I might be overestimating this in my, remembering this with rose-colored glasses. Didn't it rain almost every day?
It did.
Some days it rained really hard, flood the streets rain. And other days, maybe there was just a little sprinkling of it, but cool and beautiful. And yeah, it was the whole month of June. And like you said, a little bit into July even.
It was just awesome. I just loved it. Loved it so much. So there you go. Enjoy the rain, all you adults. I've said this before, but
it's wasted on kids.
The thing is that they don't care like we did. They don't care that it rains. All their cool stuff, like what was it George Carlin used to say? My parents would send me to my room. I said, "Cool, that's where all my stuff is."
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but there are kids in my neighborhood that I hear out in their backyards until way into the evening, and all everybody has the lights, the string lights in their backyards now that keep it lighter out there longer. And I hear a lot of kids playing outside.
I like that.
And even kids like running around my neighborhood a little. Like for years, it was like all the kids were like hothouse flowers. And you just never saw them outside without parents.
Little moles.
Yeah. And now, I mean, there are kids outside. They don't go far from home. And there's always a parent,
close enough,
keeping track of them. But you see kids with a little bit of independence.
I like that.
Maybe
man.
a little
That's
bit of
good.
neighborhood independence.
You had one kid. Remember the little boy? They don't live there anymore. But he was a little urchin boy. No. But let me say, I'm saying in a good way. He was just a little pistol, wasn't he?
He was really cute.
Very cute. He'd run around with no shirt on almost all the time. And I was out front one day doing something, and he comes up and says, he may really have said, "Hey, mister."
Yeah.
He may have said something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, mister, can you help me get my bike out of the creek? And he had ridden his bike down to where the creek is, which is not too far from here.
Right.
And his bike, son of a gun, that thing was all the way down.
I think it had just kind of rolled down the hill towards the creek and he just couldn't get down there to get it.
And it was way too deep. It would have been dangerous.
Yeah.
If he had gone down there to try and get it himself. At the same time, I got to tell you, I've watched enough Dateline and different things, the old Chris Hansen days of what he did on TV. Here is me, a grown man, walking down into the woods with a young boy.
And it's not like he asked you because he knew you.
No.
He didn't know you at all.
No.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Well, where is it?" He says, "Down here." I was like, "Oh, golly, I said, "Yeah, sure, let's go." And then I think I even told him, I said, "Now you stay up there.
Right.
You stay up there by the dangerous street. We don't want someone to have you down here with a safe protector, and I'll get you." I had to get into the creek and get his little bike. And then he may or may not have said thank you. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying he was on his way.
Yeah.
He got on his bike and he just, took off.
Yeah.
And I was always nervous about that kid because I thought, like you have this Chihuahua in the neighborhood that is always getting out, and I think that dog's going to get hit.
And he never has.
No, never has. And I had the same feeling about that little boy that, oh, gosh, he's always out. And I love when kids are out. But, man, it was just, anyway, I digress.
Yeah, he did have a lot of independence.
Yeah, which can be good, can also be challenging later.
Yeah.
I mean, independence is one of the things that can help the kids not stand up against peer pressure.
And independence doesn't mean no supervision.
Right, yeah.
There's still somebody like, maybe the string is a little bit longer, but there's still somebody holding on to the
I always hoped so.
He was, the end of it.
That whole group over there was a little bit free range children for my taste, but not my monkeys, not my circus.
That's it.
So, all right, let's talk about tariffs for a second. For many, they are either terrifying or terrific. You see what I did there?
I do see that. Look at you being creative with your language.
How long I worked on that? About like 4 seconds. Terrifying or terrific, the tariffs. And, of course, the Dow took a tank yesterday, was down, 1,600 points or whatever it was by the end of the day. It's going to be okay. Okay, I just want to say that it's going to be okay. Right now, it doesn't feel okay. But let's talk just a little bit about what reciprocal tariffs even are.
Okay.
Because that is a big part of this. What are reciprocal tariffs? Tariffs are, of course, what an extra charge that is placed on a good that comes from another country, right?
Sure.
So if we have goods that we send over to, let's say, China, China does already place a tariff on those goods, and those goods cost more in that country, and the providers of those goods, or I suppose also services, would have to pay more to get those goods in that country. That's the way it works. And we'll come back in a minute to the way we've been told how tariffs, only impact the consumer. In that case, it would be tariffs. The China places a 67% tariff that is charged to the U.S. for goods that go into China. And so Trump says we're not going to charge them 67%, but we're going to charge them half of that. So we're going to place a 34% tariff on goods from China that come into the United States. We're not even saying they got to pay what we pay. We're just saying, hey, we got to pay something. Now, the something can result in the things we talked about before, an increase in some of the prices. And the question is, who pays for it, and why do countries not want, or do they not want, to have tariffs placed on them? Just a couple of examples. European Union, 39%. The goods that we export to the European Union, the EU, have by them a 39% tariff that is placed on those goods. Trump says, well, 39, let's take about half of that. Let's go 20. The ones that come from them to us, we'll go 20% tariff. Yeah. Vietnam, you won't believe this. There's a 90% tariff on any good that comes from the United States that is sold in Vietnam. A 90%, almost double.
It's pretty high.
Almost double. So Trump says, well, for them, we're going to make it 46%, half of that. So you go to the list. So you go to Japan, 46, we make it 24. India, 52, we make it 26. South Korea, 50, we make it 25. Thailand, 72% that we have to pay, and a tariff into Thailand. We say not 72, let's go 36. So that's the way that Trump is doing it. You could disagree with it, and I understand. There are people who say, no, we don't want any tariffs. But what Trump is saying is we're not going to be the suckers anymore, having to pay all these tariffs for our goods to go somewhere else. We're going to make them pay something, and in this case, it's almost half. I think the bottom is 10. Peru is 10% that they place on our goods sold there. So Trump says, okay, we'll do 10%. So it goes down to as low as 10, does not go below 10. Some are quite high. Some are around 10%. Cambodia is 97% that they charge us. And so what is half of 97%? Let's make it 49%. So 49%. That's what we're going to do. Now, is that going to modify some countries' behavior? Maybe. I don't know. But let's go. Let's put that to bed. That is what he's talking about. And I do think that gives a different feel to it than, President Trump is just putting all these tariffs up, sort of like willy-nilly, just throwing these numbers out for these countries. It's not the case. He's saying no more free ride. No more your goods get in here and there is no tariff, but our goods go there and you charge us 94% or 40% or 20%. So
this might be a stupid question, but when you say 94%, 94% of the value of the goods.
Well, let's say you have a $1 item that goes into Vietnam. Vietnam was 90%. So if you had a $1 item, there would be a 90 cent tariff on that.
Just to get it into the country.
To get it in.
Okay.
And the question is, are there other people that could provide, are there other countries that could provide those goods and those services? The reason countries don't like tariffs is because another country that doesn't have that kind of tariff might be able to then get that same good into that country. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If we place a tariff on China, for example, for X, you say, well, all that's going to do is increase the cost of the good here in the United States. Everything at Walmart or wherever is going to go crazy expensive. And it's all going to hurt the economy. It's going to hurt the consumer. Okay. But one of the reasons why China doesn't want a tariff placed on China is what if we can get that same good from India? And we don't have tariffs on India. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the way that works. But at the very end of it, so there is an impact on a country where a tariff is placed on that country that has not just to do with, well, the American people are going to pay for it anyway, so what does it matter? Those countries don't want tariffs for the reasons that I shared.
Sure.
And Trump just said, I'm going to put them on a bunch of people. And that's like 194, as many countries as there are. I mean, Costa Rica's in there, Dominican Republic's in there, UAE, New Zealand, Argentina, Ecuador, Guatemala, Honduras, on and on. And so that really is that's sort of the thumbnail on tariffs. It is it terrific or is it terrifying? I don't really know. What I do know is that I think it is a good thing to bring some parity to this. Just like he did with NATO. These countries were not paying their fair share with 3% of GDP or whatever it is. They weren't paying their fair share to be in NATO. And so the U.S. is paying, trillions of dollars to be in NATO. And if another NATO country, if Norway is attacked, then, we all have to Article 5 or whatever it is. The United States is on the hook to stand even militarily for that country.
Right.
And to stand against its aggressor. And it's like, okay, we'll do that, but, you guys got to pony up a little bit. We know you guys won't be able to provide the troops. If we were attacked, you think Norway's going to come and, guard the left coast? No, it's not going to happen. And it would be crazy if Norway said, yeah, we're doing the yeoman's work when it comes to paying for NATO, our dues, and the United States is not, if just reversing the roles. So we think that should be different than it is. 100% tariff on something from XYZ, from Micronesia. Well, the Micronesians don't care. They go, that's okay, because the people in America have to pay a higher cost. So it doesn't really matter. But it does matter. Countries don't want tariffs on their goods. We don't want tariffs on our goods. Something that makes sense. But if we're the only ones paying tariffs, and we're not having some, in his case, he calls it reciprocal tariffs, then I think that would probably, it's not fair. People want to be fair. The fair comes once a year. Go. It's a lot of fun. But people talk about that's really not fair. Well, yeah, it's not fair. Life's not fair. I mean, put your big boy pants on. So that's my little take on tariffs. I wouldn't be afraid of it. It's going to have a blip. It has had a blip. It had a blip in the stock market, and there'll be some people will say, well, gas prices went up 30 cents, I see, and that stuff doesn't happen immediately. I saw a car dealer, a guy on one of the news shows, car dealer from up in Pennsylvania somewhere. He's like the Ray Huffines of Pennsylvania, I think. So shout out to Ray. And the news person was trying to get him to say, yeah, this is going to be crazy and it's going to make all our prices go up. And he looked at it as a lot. He said, we have 90 days of cars that are tariff free. We're okay.
Yeah. Come get them.
Come get them. Come buy them now. At some point, maybe if this all goes the way, then maybe. But it's all going to be. He was trying to say it's all going to be okay.
I heard that too, and they are you going to have to lay people off? Are you going to have to you have to cut your staff? How are you going to make it through this? And yeah, he had a very reasonable response.
They are the news. They are desperate to find a little soundbite that they can say throughout the day into the next next 36 hours. We talked to the Ray Huffines of Pennsylvania, and here's what he said. They find one thing. Well, we may have to lay off all the all the women here or whatever. It's something like that. They want to get that, and the guy's saying no. See, he didn't say it's going to be okay, but he was saying this is part of business.
Right.
It's part of doing business. And is over time, not initially, but over time, going to have good impact on the nation. But that's not how it's going to be sold because it doesn't fit their narrative. Their narrative is Trump did it. It's bad. Let's find the reasons why and let's sell that out there. And if we can sell that, then later we can go out with microphones and say, how do you feel about so and so? Oh, I feel so and so, which is just the stuff that they heard on the news. I've told this story before. Back in the back in ago times. Olden days. Part of my job at a music station was to write promos. So we would write promos that said certain things. And part of my job was then to schedule those things so listeners would hear them. So I would sit at a typewriter. In the old days, it really was a typewriter.
Yeah.
I sit at a typewriter and I would write things out and that I thought would resonate. And then I would give those to the production people, and they would produce those and give them back to me. And then I would say, okay, I want these to be heard, and we're going to make sure that we're going to soak the audience in this message. And then about 90 days later, I would go out on the streets with a microphone at maybe a radio station event, and I would say, tell me what you think about whatever, or tell me what you like about blah, blah, blah. They would say back to me the very words in the same order that I had written about 100 days before that, and then had them listen to.
It's a real peek behind the curtain.
So I really do know the power of doing this. And when every other place in the world, except maybe one news source, and they're way off in the other direction, selling the very same thing. And then you go out and with a man on the street sort of microphone, what do you think? What do you think? Oh, this is what I think. It's the same they've been told. It's not that they think anything. Right. They don't know. They're just repeating back. News has become like the promos I used to write, except it's 24/7. It's all day long. They just repeat the same stuff. And then they ask people, what'd you think about it? And they think what they've been told to think. They're not encouraged to think. They're just encouraged to think the way they've been told to think. Anyway, it's a long thing on tariffs. I'm going to call that tariffs plus. So it's a little bit more than maybe, certainly more than most wanted. But I say that. But just one more thing, the price. We're coming up on Easter, right? Easter's coming up.
We are.
What are the things you look forward to with the kids at Easter time when you get them all around the table?
Dyeing eggs.
That's right. Do you know what they're doing this year because the price of eggs can be expensive?
What?
They are dyeing Easter potatoes.
Who's doing that?
Some people. I saw the news story. That instead of eggs, some people are doing this for. I guess you'd peel them and then you could dye them. Yeah. It's not the same though, but
Easter potatoes.
Yeah, look it up real quick.
Easter potatoes. There they are.
I told you.
Dyeing potatoes instead of eggs. They're kind of cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unlike the eggs, you could carve them to be the size and whatnot that you want.
Well, yeah, but this has them actually
with the skin.
With the skin on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're like little
red potatoes?
like little new potatoes. Would never have even thought about that.
Yeah, cool?
White or Yukon Gold.
Yeah,
potatoes.
That's right. Yukon Gold is the one. That's the way.
Those are the ones.
All right.
Okay, well, who knew?
Yep, there you go.
Who knew? Have you seen? Certainly, you've seen or heard about this by now that Amazon wants to buy TikTok.
I did see that. I'm not really big on TikTok. I don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything about TikTok either.
But I did see that Amazon that's because of that thing that Trump did, right?
It is.
They shut review. They shut it down. Shut TikTok down.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean to say is they said it could not be accessed in the United States because it is Chinese owned.
Right.
And there was nervousness there about security and the different things and tracking and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
It was, unless it was owned by an American company or not owned by China, it would have to not be available in the United States. There was an uproar. And then Trump said, okay, we'll give some time to find an owner. Mm-hmm. And is that where we are now?
I think there's a
deadline. Yeah,
the deadline is
it's
on
like the 5th. Yeah,
so
5th of
tomorrow basically is the deadline.
That's right.
For that. So I guess we'll know soon. What I had kind of lost track of was that Amazon has wanted to have an in-house social media network for a long time because, of course, what could it help them do? Mm-hmm. It could help them sell more things and appeal to a younger audience. They already bought Twitch in 2014. That cost them nearly $1 billion.
Wow.
And then also the book review site Goodreads in 2013.
Oh,
that was all a part of their effort to build a viable social network. So I guess they've wanted to be in that game for a while. So maybe it's not all that weird.
Well, one quick thing on Cory Booker. You saw the whole thing with the 25 hours and 4 minutes.
I did.
Or whatever it was. And he set a record. You know, the last time somebody spoke that long, really weird. Do you know who it was?
I don't.
Because they had a whole top 10 list of people who had bothered people for multiple double-digit hours from the floor. And Senator Cory Booker, New Jersey, was doing this, and it comes at a time when Democrats don't really have a leader, and I think that had a lot to do with it. It was a stunt for sure, but it wasn't that he was trying to filibuster something to keep a vote from happening. I know that Ted Cruz did that back in the Obamacare days. He had a thing where I think he's number 6 on the list on the hit parade of those who just did the long thing. But the number 1, until Cory Booker knocked him off, was a former Republican and a Democrat, became a Democrat, was Strom Thurmond.
Okay.
And Strom Thurmond, of course, he was a tremendous racist in the olden days. And one of the things that the whole reason he was doing it, when he did that, when he was a filibuster to keep a vote from taking place, it was the Civil Rights Act. So
wow.
Strom Thurmond was trying to keep the vote from taking place for the Civil Rights Act. And, of course, later in his life, he was revered because, I think he did a lot of stuff to try and make up for his past in that way. But anyway, so Cory Booker. But one of the things that I was curious about, he had to stand the entire time.
I did see him sort of leaning on the...
You could lean, yeah, but you could lean like Keith Morrison, things Keith Morrison leans on. That's a whole little strange obsession of ours. But you could lean. But the other thing, and this is really strange, there were, in the 25 hours and 4 minutes, there were no bathroom breaks.
I saw, how could that be?
I don't know. I'm afraid to even go down a road of guessing, but I don't know. But he didn't.
Would
for
that have
25 hours, and it would have been over.
It would have been over.
Yeah.
You've got to stay right there.
Yep.
You've really, okay.
Mm-hmm. So I think it was a stunt. Some people were marveling. I saw somebody on one of the social media platforms was saying, I stood and cried, and my boys were saying, Mama, what's wrong? And so I want you to remember this moment. Finally, someone we can believe in, and all this kind of stuff. Look, that'll all fade. It's a power of proximity. It looked cool at the moment, but trust me, it ain't going to happen for Cory Booker. Now, maybe in the future he'll run for president. They'll harken back to the great thing that he did and whatever. But, it comes at a time when Democrats really desperately need some guidance. Mm-hmm. And he did. Well, you can imagine if he talked for 25 hours and 4 minutes, he said some things that I would agree with. He talked about, hey, we've let you down. Our party has let the American people down. I've personally let you down. We want to learn from our mistakes and whatever. You had to fill the time. Mm-hmm. You can't talk the whole time about, can you believe Trump's hair? I mean, that can't be the stuff you do, the whole time. So Cory Booker, has his market. I would imagine that will not be beaten, that record for a long for a long, long time.
Well, for the lack of bathroom breaks, if nothing else, who could possibly go longer than that?
Not this guy. Okay, it is with some fear and trepidation that I see.
Charlie doesn't want you to say
Charlie says don't do it.
What's
But it is one of my, I come up with lots of ideas.
Uh-huh.
As you say, so many opinions.
Oh, I know where you're going. I think I already know.
I have something that I came up with a while back, and it's a marketing plan for an item.
Yeah.
And I want to bring it up only in light of the Cory Booker event where he could not stop and go to the restroom. He couldn't do that. And so a long time ago, I had an idea that I thought I could, and obviously I'm sort of kidding, could market. You could do, it'd be, we're adults, right? It's an adult diaper, and it is made specifically for truckers. And it's called Scotty's Helper or something like that. Scotty's Helper.
Don't they already call those truckers?
I don't know,
helpers?
but see the genius, humility. The genius is not in the title of it. The genius is in the slogan.
Okay.
This is for truckers.
I remember.
Who are on the road. And here is the slogan. You don't have to stop to go.
It's really.
Now, see, I think. Thank you. Oh, it is. It is time. It is time for Scattershoot.
Okay. Ready?
Okay, it's time for Wilder Show Scattershoot. Some of the times in the first segment, I think, this seems kind of scattershooty. Maybe I should have held on to that until the scattershoot music could begin. But no, it is what it is. We put it down, and that's it. It goes in the books the way it goes in the books.
That's right,
Lauren.
Sometimes something starts out kind of newsy and it becomes sort of scattershooty.
Usually when it's in my hands.
As we bring our own opinions, our own thoughts and opinions into it.
Yeah.
How much time do you think you spend a day worrying? Give me a number of minutes.
12 minutes.
Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I really don't know. 12 is an answer I give to everything.
12 minutes, yeah.
Just 12. Yeah, how many people? 12. But I would say not a lot. It's not because I probably should, but I would say not a whole lot.
No, I don't think you should. I mean, I think it's good if the number is low.
I guess
think
so.
that says
well, what is your number?
What
do you think your number is?
I asked you, but I really it's a lot lower now than it was when I was younger.
Oh, gotcha.
Really, how many minutes a day do I spend worrying? I bet I don't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes a day worrying. It depends on what's going on. It's tax time, so maybe maybe my average is up.
I'm up a little bit right now.
A little bit.
But it also may have to do with how do you define worrying?
Yeah.
What are you worried about? I mean, I a long time ago I said I don't worry, I work. If there's something going on,
yeah.
we had if you're out of work, everybody who's lived any kind of life has had some period of time where they had to scramble, and they probably scramble for a bogey even, or a double.
Right.
But I always thought, worry is going to eat me up. I can't worry. I got to work. So don't worry, work. And then of course you pray and all that. But
sure.
In terms of worrying, the fretting is not as productive.
Maybe it's a generational
Yeah,
thing.
maybe so.
Because it seems now that young people are worrying more. In fact, the average American spends 138 minutes mired in worrisome thoughts every day.
130 minutes?
Not just casual worry, but they're mired in worrisome thoughts.
Well, first of all, you said 138 minutes?
138 minutes.
That's more than, was it 2 hours plus, right?
That's 2 hours plus.
Okay.
It is.
And the other thing is you said that's the average.
That's the average.
So that means some people are maybe at 5 hours, maybe, a lot. If I'm doing 12 minutes, somebody else is doing weigh a bunch,
right?
To get that average down.
I think the people in our age group are bringing down the average.
Okay,
because this is particularly Gen X and millennials
What are they worried about?
Well, I'll tell you. But 1 in 10 young Americans have carved out dedicated worry time in their daily routines.
No wonder they worry. They said it's time to worry, so I'm going to sit and worry.
I see. I think that could be good. It could also be bad. If you say, I'm worried about a lot of things. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to think about all these things for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to move on to the rest of my day and put all of those things aside.
But what if those things become a little seed you plant that you pick from the rest of the day?
That's the downside.
If you can put a bow on it and go, okay, I'm going to give 20 minutes to this, and I'm going to do these 3 things, then I'm going to put off the side, and worry's over, time to work.
So they worry about health concerns. They worry about sleep anxiety. They worry about political uncertainties.
Okay.
Those are the biggest things.
Okay.
And here's what I think. Here's what I think. If it's younger people, I think I worried a lot more when I was younger.
Okay.
I think a lot of I've worked on not worrying as much. I mean, I've actively tried to figure out how to work on myself to not worry as much.
Okay.
But I think also sometimes it's just the passage of time. You look back at things that you were really crazy over when you were young, and you see, in the rear view mirror, you see, and it might not have turned out okay, but you still made it through. All the things that I spent so much time worrying about, so many of those things never even happened. Now, other things might have happened that I didn't see coming, but I made it through them. And I think even now, when my kids who aren't kids, they're adults, but when they come to me with things that they're worried about, my answer is so often, it's going to be okay. It's really going to be okay. And a lot of times I think they don't really want to hear it. They want it because it feels like maybe you don't understand.
They want confirmation bias. They want you to reinforce what they don't want you to talk them off the ledge. They want you to hold their hand.
Yeah, maybe so. My whole point is I don't know that young people are that different now than we were then.
I don't think
young people worry more now than young people might have worried 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, or we were just worried about different things, maybe.
I think they probably do worry more because they have different expectations. They have really high expectations.
Yeah.
And I want to say this as gently as I can. They have the really high expectations of everything outside of them.
Yeah.
I mean, like it'd be good to have high expectations of yourself and your work ethic and your care factor and your credibility, and work on being dependable and being reliable and being an employee and understanding that you're a part of a whole. It's not all about you. You're not the center of the universe. I mean, so sometimes maybe there is a great expectation of what they can get. And so then there's a worry that they're not there yet, but less of a concern about worrying about what I can give.
I don't know. I mean, they also worry about money, and they worry about their families. And I think those are the same things that we worried about. And when the things that I mentioned, health concerns. I used to worry about my health, but probably more when I was younger, even than I do now. I don't know, maybe because I've already made it to this age, I don't worry about it as much. Political uncertainties. I remember when we worried about who was going to be the next president in the early 90s, and the whole weight of everything was on,
Most
whatever the upcoming.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I guess it just seems to me maybe they're not that different than we were, and time and age changes those things.
I do think there are some times when things are pivotal. There's some moments in American history where if we had gone the other way, it would have been tragic. I mean, for example, what if? I mean, we're here on the cusp of the anniversary of the ending of the Civil War. What if the Civil War had gone differently? What if slavery had won? Was it important at that moment to have Abraham Lincoln be the president?
Of course.
Well, what if it had gone different? So there are some times where it really is pivotal. Now, it's not. No, I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that So the problem is everybody thinks that every election is as pivotal, but it's not. I mean, we've endured a lot of bad presidents and some bad people who were presidents, and will endure. The nation will endure if we can keep it, as Ben Franklin is quoted. It's a republic, madam, if you can keep it. And so we have the chance to do that. But I understand. So worry. Yeah, don't worry. I mean, do the right amount of worrying, whatever that is. Worry about the most important things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just pick the things that are most important. Worry about those if you're going to worry. But really, you know, it's the old, oh gosh, it's the old let go, let God. I mean, you know, there's so much stuff that you can't control it.
Yeah.
You know, and worry is just going to eat you up.
Maybe not. And maybe try to transform it from something that's not worry, but that is some kind of constructive thought.
I mean, you can work at the thing and do all that you can do. That's all that you can do. I mean, that's all you can do is all you can do.
Right. All you can do is all you can do. But there is something that you can do to get better sleep. I kind of feel like I've talked about this several times. Maybe it's not because these are the things that grab my attention. Maybe because it really is the truth, but it's just so hard for us to wrap our brain around it. Using a smartphone or tablet for just 1 hour after going to bed. So you get into bed, you're all comfortable, you're all relaxed. You've had your hot tea and you pick up your phone and you scroll for an hour or so after going to bed. That's going to raise your risk of insomnia by 59%.
Yeah. Can I just pause you for a second?
Sure.
I think a lot of people, I mean, sadly, you know, the last quote voice they hear is their phone, and I don't mean for a human.
Right.
The last voice that gets into them is from their phone.
Yeah.
And the first voice they hear in the morning is from their phone.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just to see the weather and what the temperature is and is it raining outside. It's like, gosh, it's been X number of hours since I've been able to scroll and you know dive into this, which I'm thankfully I'm not motivated by that, but so go ahead. I'm sorry.
The kind of weird thing about this is part of this study was done by studying the sleep habits of university students. I went to college. I don't remember good sleep habits being something that we worked really hard on.
No.
But anyway, so smartphones have, I often kind of wonder the difference between if you take your phone or a tablet to bed, is it really that different from watching TV? I don't have a TV in the bedroom right now, but for years I did.
Yeah,
and
sure.
the last thing that we would do would be watch TV.
Click off the Johnny Carson or whatever it was.
Yeah, so I really kind of wondered, is that screen any different from the screen on your tablet?
I think it is.
It is different because it's the little hits of dopamine that you're getting from scrolling. New content. It's a lot harder to put down than it, and it's designed to be that way than it is if you're just watching television.
And when you combine that with the fact that the stuff you're being fed is stuff that is more likely to be stuff that you would like. So it's not just that you're going through random stuff. You know, think about flipping through the encyclopedia. You know, you're not going alphabetically through everything.
No.
It's like they're just, the next page is something they know that you want to see.
We know you like that. And so I think here's this. And that makes it harder and harder to put down.
And I think it also is the tactile. There is something about the touching. You know, the people who study the gambling thing, you know, people, the scratch offs, or in the old days, you had the one arm bandit, right? They called that the one arm bandit.
What is that?
The slot machine. It only has one arm. You know, it's a one-arm bandit.
Uh-huh.
That's what that means. So you pull that thing down and goes back up and ching, 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 ching.
And there was something about the action of that?
Yes. It's something about the doing or the scratching. It's the filling in of the dots on the thing, on the lotto or whatever. There is a... It feeds an addiction. It's you're thinking, you're seeing, you're feeling. All these separate things are going on in the same action, and so I could see that would be for watching. If you watch your baby TV, your phone late at night, you just have it on and watch something put it on the nightstand, watch the end of something. That would be different from sitting there and getting the glasses out and scrolling.
Right.
There's something about the tactile, I think.
That makes sense.
Speaking of TV, this last week was an anniversary of something that I want to say. We said a little bit about it on the radio, but there's a little bit more about it. I don't know if you noticed, we have a little more time here to talk about things than over on the music side.
We do.
Just a few more minutes. 1953 was the debut of the TV Guide.
Mm-hmm.
It was this past week in 1953. And we never got the TV Guide at our house. We got the one that came in the
one that came with the newspaper.
Yeah, the newspaper.
Yeah, that's all we ever got to.
And the news at the grocery store, you could buy it there at the newsstand, and it was on the newsstand, right? Right there at the checkout stand.
Yeah,
and you could buy that, and we had neighbors and friends that had that, and I remember going to their house and maybe read through it and see. Some people would save those. They would, I don't know why, but you save those TV guides, I guess, to flip back through, or maybe they had articles that people wanted.
It had better content.
For
First
sure.
of all, it had a colored cover,
Mm-hmm.
and it always had somebody on the cover that
New
because
show
I loved,
or whatever.
I loved television then. Something that was interesting to me, and then a cover story, the promise of something really cool to read inside, and it was
it's
different.
a brand new show. They have an interview in there with the person that is going to be. I mean, this is hard to explain why this was a big deal. Because now we're inundated with everything, but we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have cable TV, we actually read newspapers,
we had magazines and
we
books,
read magazines and books and the TV Guide, and so the TV Guide. You go and I had a subscription to Entertainment Weekly for years.
Oh, so did I.
Back in the old days, it was every week you'd come and I would read the things.
I felt kind of like it was Time magazine for people who liked
that's right
movies and television.
It was the purple section Time magazine. So the TV Guide debuted in 1953 this last week, and I mentioned something on the radio to you. You remember how things were listed in the TV Guide? You'd have like 5:30, and it would show you all in order, like Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 8, Channel 11, Channel 13, Channel 21, 23, 33, 39, 45, whatever.
Right.
And they would go so everything that's coming on at 7 o'clock would be listed, and they'd be listed based on the time that it starts, and it would also be listed based on in order of the channel number.
Yes.
Right. So 8 o'clock, there's a big block of stuff. And if you liked, for example, Dallas would be a bad example in those days. Was CBS on 4 in those days? I think it was.
That sounds right.
So if you were on Friday night, you want to look at Friday night, the TV show Dallas, and you would see Channel 4 at whatever time it was, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. There it is, Dallas. It was Channel 4, 8 o'clock, Dallas. But if you were a competing show, you were down below that. And so there was some decided advantage to being the first thing listed there on that big block of things. So you wanted to be the first one in line. You couldn't be if you were on Channel 11 or Channel 13. It was going to be several items down. So people would then basically think of it like a drop-down box today on the internet. You would see the first item would be one. You have to skip consciously say, I'm not going to watch that. 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 I'm going to watch that.
Right.
But there were all these offerings before it that potentially would take you away from the show that you maybe wanted to watch. Well, there was a marketing group. Remember WTBS?
I do.
WTBS Superstation. WTBS
out of Atlanta.
Yeah. So at WTBS for a long time, you'll remember that they had their shows that all started at like 7:05 or 7:35
right,
or 10:05. Everything was 5 after the top or the bottom of the hour. And let me tell you why they did that. It was solely because of the TV Guide. In the TV Guide, they would be the only ones that had that 05 or that 35. So they got a separate listing for every one of their programs.
Just for their show.
Because nobody else started a show 5 minutes after or 35 minutes after the hour.
Kind of genius.
It was a huge marketing thing. And now it's it seems not quaint, but it seems kind of crazy that would have resulted in anything good. But it did. And it built up, that was Ted Turner, and it built up all that he was doing there at WTBS Atlanta. So all their things were listed at 5 after or 35 after, just because it got them a separate listing, and they were top of the heap for that time period in the thing that debuted in 1953 earlier this week, and that is the TV Guide. Okay, that is Scattershoot, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
But we do want to invite you to join us on the radio at The Light. Now, it's 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
That's right.
And you can hear your favorite music or some of your favorite music. And check it out at The Lights. Great stuff. And Lauren and I are there as your host and hostess there every weekday morning. Great folks that we have known for years and years and years that are doing the other parts of the day, and it's just a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And there's an app that you can get that makes everything so easy.
It's the Light DFW. So whether you have an iPhone or an Android, wherever you get your apps, just go there, search the Light DFW, and it makes the listening experience. I mean, I think it even sounds better, and it just makes the listening experience more seamless. Even I think I love it.
You can take it with you wherever you go. Obviously, you can also do the smart speakers. You can do the smart
Alexa?
speakers. You do Alexa. What do you tell Alexa?
So
enable.
You tell Alexa, enable the Light Dallas,
okay.
And then I think you would just tell Alexa, play the Light Dallas.
That's all you have to do. So we got you at home. We got you on the road. If you want to go to turnonthelight.com. You can actually stream it on the web.
That's another way to listen to.
But I really like the app. That's the easiest way. And no matter where you are, you're driving around, you could listen to it and wherever you go. So join us there on the radio. We get you coming and going. Got you on the music thing, got you on the talk thing. And you can find us on the web at wildershow.com. Instagram is Wilder Show Pod. And you'll search for it and find it and like it. We appreciate that. If you want to send us an email, it's easy. podcast@wildershow.com. And the Wilder Show podcast drops on Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 a.m. Central on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. Do tell a friend. We really appreciate that. And we will see you again. Wheezy, man.
Still hungry.
You are? I'm Wheezy. Wheezy, that's one of the elves. I mean, not elves, what do you call it, the little ones?
Dwarves.
Was it a V or an F? Dwarfs or dwarves?
I'm pretty sure the plural of dwarf is dwarves. Let me look it up.
Isn't it interesting that the Snow White and the dwarves, that in all their political correctness, they kept them with offensive names like Dopey? Isn't it kind of funny?
Yeah.
That they were CGI. They weren't even real human dwarfs. They just made sure that 7 dwarfs would not get work. You can't hire real dwarfs. You have to draw up some dwarves.
Plural of dwarf. Both dwarfs and dwarves are acceptable plurals of dwarf.
That's wrong.
The majority of Gen Z and millennials are in a constant state of worry. Oh my God.
How about that? How's African Passion? Not a minute too late. It's time for Scattershoot.
Or a minute too soon.
Dang.